The political hot potato, that is the socio-economic survey and education survey, better known as the caste census report, is now in the hands of the Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah. Now, the survey has triggered a renewed debate within the Congress, which appeared divided over the issue. Now, it was submitted to CM Siddaramaiah by Karnataka State Commission for Backward Classes Chairman K. Jayaprakash Hegde, whose tenure incidentally ended on Thursday itself. But the question that begs to be asked here is now, will Siddaramaiah make the details of the caste census public, and when? Now, before we get into why and what of it, let me first read out what the report contains according to sources. Before I do that, there's a small disclaimer that I just need to read out. Remember that the information that we will show you now is not official and is completely source based. So, the findings that we show you may not be the exact data. Also, to be noted is that the critical portions of the survey have been leaked in the past as well. Now, these leaked details could contain conventional caste proportion equations on their. They could turn these conventional caste proportions on their head. So, according to sources, what we have here is in the caste census data that was presented by K. Jayaprakash Hegde. It says that SC and STs are the largest in number in terms of communities in Karnataka. Now, Muslims are the second largest, Lingayats are the third largest, Vokkaligas are the fourth largest community, Kurubas are the largest OBC community. Dalits, however, they represent the largest chunk and are spread across the length and breadth of Karnataka as per the caste census report. Now, this is completely source based, just a reminder once again. Now, this data clearly shows that the population of SCSTs, Dalits, and Muslims may have been grossly underreported and the proportion of Vokkaligas and Lingats overreported. Now, it is hardly surprising that two of the Karnataka's most dominant and politically significant communities, Vokkaligas and Lingats, are up in arms about this report. Now, they have expressed reservations about the survey, calling it unscientific, and also they have demanded that it be rejected and a fresh survey be conducted. Already, a few Congress ministers and MLAs, especially those from the Veerashaiva Lingat community, have expressed their apprehensions as well. Minister Lakshmi Hebardkar has said that during the survey, many houses were not visited. Also, there are 103 subcastes among Veerashaiva Lingats, and people have noted their caste separately during the survey and so on. While these are the claims and these are the issues that are pertinent with this particular caste census report, we need to understand if Siddaramaiah is indeed going to publish the report, whether it's going to be a political game changer for him and for Congress. And if he does so ahead of the Lok Sabha elections, this could have significant political implications in the state as well. So now to discuss more on this, I'm joined in by Professor Narendra Pani, a renowned political analyst, to understand what this means. Thank you for joining us today, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Pani, sir. So basically, now it is hardly surprising, isn't it, that Vokkaligas and Lingats have expressed the reservations about the survey. But the bigger question now is, will Siddaramaiah do what he's been, basically portraying or trying to say that he will do it, but he's not really taken a significant step in this regard. Will he put or will he publish the report?
If I may just take a minute to give the background, because unlike other parts of the country,
Right.
Karnataka, or at least Old Mysore, was one of the pioneers in reservations. So you have a history of over 100 years. But more than the reservations per se, it's the type of reservations that we must keep in mind. Right back from 1921 itself, virtually all the castes were covered. The issue was really if you were more developed, you would get less than your share of the population. If you were more less developed, you'll get more than your share of the population. That was that was the idea, that you sort of counterbalance it, but it is all aspects taken together. The reason I'm mentioning this now is for there are really two reasons. One is that it is not just population that matters. It also is the extent of development or what the socio-economic background of the communities that will come into play when deciding this. And the second point one is trying to, one I think we should keep in mind, is that negotiations between castes are built into the Karnataka, Old Mysore and now Karnataka form of reservations. It's unlike the mandal where you have just a cutoff and somebody gets in and somebody is left out. Here, almost everybody is inside, even the Vokligas and the Lingayats inside. The question is how much of the share of seats they would get. If they are presented as very developed, they would get less than that share of the population. If presented as more developed, they would. If they're presented less developed, they'll get more than their share, and if they're presented as more developed, they'll get less than their share of the population. So that is a factor. So they are trying to concentrate on projecting the share of the population as being higher. But they should, I think, without looking at the development aspect of it, the responses would be premature.
All right. Thank you for the views there, Panisa. Now, also, we are joined in by Nabila Jamal, Deputy Editor
Hello.
for India Today. So,
Hello, sir.
Nabila, we were just discussing there the political implications of publishing this caste census report. Will
Yeah.
Siddaramaiah really do it? Because remember, DK Shivkumar, if I remember right, he had aligned with the pontiffs and leaders from dominant Vokkaliga community and had
Right.
opposed it, and later he changed his view as well. So there's already friction within the Congress itself regarding the caste census report. What do you think is going to happen with the report here? Will Siddaramaiah really publish it and make it known? Because as you would have already seen as well, the SC/STs are the largest communities according to the
Yeah.
report that we have.
Yeah.
Muslims are the second largest. So Siddaramaiah being the Ahinda leader, he has a lot to gain personally for himself, may not be for the Congress. So there's several equations that we need to keep in mind. Your take on it?
You know, the fact that Siddaramaiah has sat on this report even during his previous regime, because the survey was done during the previous regime of Siddaramaiah's. If he really had the intention, he should have ideally published then. The fact that it hasn't been published to this end, and Jayaprakash Hegde's tenure is also over, he submitted the report. I really think the government at this point lacks the intention ahead of Lok Sabha elections, Gautam, considering that the Lingayat community overwhelmingly at this assembly elections a year ago have voted for the Congress. So at this point, right ahead of Lok Sabha elections, I highly doubt that the Congress would want to disturb that vote bank, which ideally is divided between the BJP and the Congress. Lingayat particularly, if you look at SC/ST per se, as far as I've seen and studied SC/ST, at least the ST community largely have supported the Congress, at least in the assembly elections, even previously. So the friction is not with the SC/ST. The friction is with the Lingayat community.
The question that needs to be asked, go ahead.
The friction is with the Lingayat community, and the fact that the Lingayats have this time supported the Congress, I highly doubt that they're going to let go of that sentiment or bruise their ego ahead of Lok Sabha.
All right. So that is one way of looking at it, that the Lingayat community that voted for the Congress in the assembly elections, the Congress will not risk losing favor with them. But also there are claims that this report itself is unscientific, Professor Pani. There were reports that this report was lost, the one that was prepared by Kantaraj, and then there has been several tweaks about it. So what do you think is the significance of this? Is the report really scientific in your view?
Well, without seeing the report, it's difficult to come to a conclusion on whether it is scientific or not. It's only when you get it. I was sort of on the periphery of government functionaries when they were. I wasn't involved in it, but I was sort of following through with some government functionaries when they were carrying it out. There's nothing in what was done at that point to suggest that it is unscientific, but I don't know. I don't know what finally has happened and what is actually in the report. I would only like to say, as far as taking the report seriously or whether it will be accepted, I don't see it being accepted, but I certainly see it being made public either directly or through these kind of mechanisms through sources. Because essentially, as I said, reservations in Karnataka is about continuous negotiations between all communities. It does not have a hard demarcation between the beneficiary of reservation and those who are left out. So it really is a matter of trying to state each one's position. And what we are seeing from the Lingayats and the Vokkaligas and from everybody else, I would see as their opening positions. What happens finally will be long drawn out. Whether the chief minister wants to complete that negotiations before the Lok Sabha elections, I think that would be that is unlikely, and it's also very difficult because it's really a large number of castes negotiating on what is there, and it's normally these processes are drawn out at least for 6 to 8 months. I think you would expect this process to just be starting now.
Yeah. All right. While there is still question marks over whether how scientific this report really is, one thing that we need to note here is Rahul Gandhi had basically claimed credit for Nitish Kumar conducting the caste survey in Bihar. And while that being the case, uh, shouldn't Siddaramaiah be championing this cause and really pushing out this report here, Nabila?
You see the? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Go
sir,
ahead.
please go on. No, I mean, of course, sir's an expert on this, but the way I look at it, it's too close to Lok Sabha elections for them to be bruising egos of the Lingayats, because they very well know in Lok Sabha, especially when it comes to even the SC ST, for that matter, the ST has voted nearly 14% for the Congress this assembly elections, but the pattern usually varies when it comes to assembly and Lok Sabha. So at this point, 25 seats of the Lok Sabha is held with the BJP. Multiple surveys, including India Today survey. I'm sure, Gautam, you've seen it. Sir has also seen it. Our India Today internal surveys suggest that at least 22 to 23 seats the BJP will manage to retain. So the voting patterns are largely different in the Lok Sabha, and the Lingayats usually favor, even the SC, ST, and the Dalits usually favor the BJP when it comes to Lok Sabha elections. So this kind of bruising ego fag at the fag end, just ahead of Lok Sabha, I highly doubt. But I feel Siddaramaiah will surely release it right after Lok Sabha, when there's a discussion of change in leadership, when DK
But
Shivkumar is going to be pushing the wheels to take on the chief minister's mantle. That's when Siddaramaiah will dig in his heels to show his Ahinda strength. That he is the Ahinda leader, that's the largest population. I'm going to remain as a chief minister. That's where this is going to come into play, I feel.
all right. Your views, Professor Pani, you were saying.
I think the point is when you're having a negotiation between castes, it's in the interest of the Congress to internalize that negotiation, to make it a matter of differences and negotiation within the party rather than between them and the BJP. So, which is basically what they are doing. The Lingayats and the Vokligas are out in full swing, just as the other leaders are rallying behind Siddaramaiah. So, they're basically just putting it out there, and they will try to internalize it. I would think you would see much more assertive positions from within the Congress, taking away the space of opposition from the non-Congress, including the BJP. That will be the main strategy of Siddaramaiah, because you must remember that while the question of alienating Lingayats is there, there's also the question of gaining the support of the backward castes and Muslims and Dalits. And particularly the idea of the Dalits being the largest group, if that is sort of borne out by the data, the Lingayats, the Dalits and Muslims are too big a number to be ignored, to be brushed aside. So it's basically a negotiation. And I think the Congress will try very hard to keep that negotiation within the party, with people taking public positions contrary to each other. That's the way the Congress has functioned traditionally. It lost its way in the middle, but going right back to the early years of independence, that's how the Congress used to function. So that's what Siddaramaiah is trying. He'll keep it alive. He'll put out stories like he's done yesterday, and I'm not sure he'll not close the debate before the elections.
But
Sir, and just speaking of the Muslim strength, the caste census, if at all, it shows that the Muslim community or the population is large or larger than the proportion of the others. That's going to
That's
be
not true.
a big political play for the BJP at this point, to push for a Hindu Rashtra. For them, it falls
No,
into their hands.
if that is no, I think that would depend upon what actual numbers you have, and if you're going to compare Hindu versus Muslim, you can't compare Muslims with a particular caste. What
Yeah.
the data tells you is that the scheduled castes themselves are far bigger than Muslims alone. They're just one caste among the Hindus. So I don't see that, using the Hindu Rashtra card, saying that, they are the second largest compared to castes as opposed to the entire religion. It might, in fact, emphasize the caste element much more. I'm not so sure the BJP will want to take that on, because it brings out the Muslims as less than the single largest Hindu caste and comparable to the other castes. It reduces them as has been the traditional narrative in Karnataka as just another community comparable to the caste, which suits the traditional politicians in Karnataka. It doesn't
Yeah.
suit the BJP.
But the question here is also who stands to gain the most from if the caste survey is published, isn't it? The Because it does seem advantage Siddaramaiah in many ways, and if Rahul Gandhi does push him to publish it, him being the Ahinda leader as well, so it also saves his seat because there's already friction between him and DK Shivkumar over whether even Siddaramaiah will complete his tenure as the chief minister. And if the survey is published and he is indeed,
See, the
you know,
main thing, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the main thing, if you want to see it in those kind of political terms, the main result of the survey would be the demand for a scheduled caste deputy chief minister.
yes.
That will be the main demand. So I'm not so sure Shiv Kumar is going to be too keen on using this data in any way. I mean, because see, they are the largest. The Muslims are second. Why do you have a Vokligas are fourth? Why do you have a
Yeah.
Vokliga deputy chief minister? You
Correct.
see, it is as if it's in reverse. The OBCs are chief minister, the Vokliga is deputy chief minister. The three most dominant, the largest castes are left out. In
Yeah.
fact, this would go back to the whole idea of having four deputy chief ministers, including one from the Lingayat, one from the Muslims, and one from the Dalits. So
Yes.
I'm not so sure that this would pan out in very simple arithmetic terms, because But I think right now what will be done is it will be put into actual negotiations so that each of these leaders can take positions that will project them within their community as the loudest voices supporting their communities, and
Right.
they'll do it within the Congress. So that and then I think if the Congress manages to give it seats in a way that it builds each of these leaders, then it has the benefit of multiple leaders within the state at election time. Whether it's enough is a different matter, but it'll look for that advantage.
All right.
So
Your
I
final
have a
views,
question.
Nabila, before we wrap this up.
I have a question to Sir actually, considering that DK Shivkumar has been he's managed to secure all three Rajya Sabha seats at a time when we saw Himachal was struggling and elsewhere. DK Shivkumar itself is known as an organizational man, someone who can really hold the flock together. He's been sent as an observer now to Himachal. So when the Congress is reposing that kind of faith on him, the High Command, do you believe that they're going to take his demand of making him the chief minister for the second half of the term? The very controversial question: will there be a CM change in your view, sir?
I think it does. Right now, it doesn't look very likely, and it's not because of the High Command.
Okay.
It's because of the number of people who have put up the demand for deputy chief minister on par with Shiv Kumar. That's a sign of what the MLAs think. If the High Command wants to take on the MLAs, good luck to them. But right now, we're already having signs of. I mean, there will be. You have to listen to what is coming from the MLAs. And I think the Himachal and other cases are really, the lesson from that is not about Shiv Kumar's strength, but really it is about ignoring MLAs and the price you could pay for that.
Right.
All right.
And does
So
DK
thank you
have
so
the
much,
strength to defect?
Sorry?
Does DK have the strength to defect? Does he have the bandwidth or the support of the MLAs? Because he may be an organizational man, but not very popular amongst his MLAs itself.
That's right. And that's always a problem. I think the time when the High Command could overrule the MLAs, like there was a time when they overruled SM Krishna's vast majority with the MLAs, and then they paid a price for it. But I think those days are over. I don't think the High Command is as powerful as that.
Right, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Pani and Nabila Jamaluddin, for joining
Thank
us
you,
on
Gautam.
today.
Thank you very much for having me.